focused on being validated that you don't hear what I'm saying.
Okay, so y'all know I do not like engaging in the discourse when it is not peacetime. I do not think it is particularly productive. This is just one of those ones that keeps coming up. I feel like if we do not address it, we are just going to keep breaking solidarity over and over and over again. And Kat, I have noticed this too. There is this very small subset of white non-binary people who are generally people who are assigned female at birth, and they always center themselves in any conversation about trans people. And they need validation. And I have had a similar frustration to you. But when I watched your video, I think it finally hit me. Here is what I think is happening. Because at first I thought this was just kind of a result of youth. I assumed that when these trans people would come into my comment section, they were very, very young. And when you're very, very young, what you crave is acceptance. You want acceptance, you want validation. I'm kind of going through a similar thing with my teenager, and I remember what it was like to be a teenager, But it's not just teenagers. And here's what I think is happening. I think that for these non-binary people, their main experience with transness is being invalidated. That is not by any means an incorrect trans experience. It is a trans experience. These non-binary people are still non-binary, they're still trans. But the main way they experience being trans in the world is by people invalidating their identity. Here are two things I have noticed about this group of people from trying to talk to them in my comment section. Because they always argue with me about medical intervention. They seem to fundamentally think that advocating for medical intervention is somehow invalidating to their experience. That we're saying you need medical intervention to be trans, when that is not the case. And this keeps happening. I have seen so many binary trans creators have to go through this same discourse. And here's what they always do. The arguments they always make. First off, a lot of them are gender abolitionists. They always come in here advocating for gender abolition. Secondly, they almost always get in an argument with me about my bazongas. And I think that because these trans people's experience is mostly rooted in the feeling of invalidation, they assume ours is too. I think a lot of these white non-binary people genuinely believe that if we get to the point where we are a society where every person in that society believes that men can have bazongas, girls can have dicks, that is how we achieve liberation. That if that society exists, trans people won't feel the need for medical intervention anymore because society will have accepted our bodies as they are. I have literally had these kinds of non-binary people come into my comment section more than once and tell me personally that if we lived in a world where people accepted that men can have bazongas, I wouldn't have felt the need to remove the bazongas. And that is not the case. I knew that the bazongas needed removed before I ever realized I was trans. My trans experience, and the experience of a lot of trans people, is rooted in a personal relationship with their body and sense of self. And that feeling would persist if we were hermits living in the woods. To them, the validation is the point. The validation is the means to liberation. And I think that is completely backwards. We gotta get our rights first. And once we have our rights, it will become more of a social faux pas to treat us like shit. Even then, there will still be people who treat us like shit. I'm not saying that total validation is a pipe dream, but it is really far away. Here's why I think it's almost always white non-binary people who are assigned female at birth who do this. White women are taught their entire lives, I know this as someone who used to be one, that their power comes from their proximity to the powerful. That their power is granted to them by white men. And what we are taught from a very young age, people who are assigned female at birth, is that if you appeal to them, if you get their validation, they will throw you a bone every once in a while. I don't even think this is something they consciously realize they're doing. What they're doing is assimilationism in a different outfit. I don't think they realize that. I think that that's where the disconnect is coming from, is that they haven't unpacked that. So white non-binary people, you gotta unpack that. And it is up to you to do that. Because I'll be fucking real. I'm not looking for cis people's validation. I want my fucking rights. Oh, it's nice if I get cis people's validation. It feels good when that happens. But that is simply not the goal I am trying to achieve. I am not a person who believes that if we yell at people enough to use our correct pronouns, they will accept us and throw us a bone and give us our rights back. I don't think that's how this works. We have to get the rights first. And that includes the right to medical intervention. You don't need medical intervention to be trans, but some trans people absolutely need medical intervention, and no amount of societal acceptance is going to change that. There will be trans people who need medical intervention, even in full trans acceptance, fully automated luxury space communism, okay? That is just how this is gonna go.